Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Finance with Lanny, guys. Today, we're going to dive into a comment on the last video, where I was really talking about, is 2024 my time to just really focus on ETFs and chilling for this year, building up that passive income stream, still taking steps to financial freedom, reducing the risk, but still watching the wealth grow. There was a comment about a little ETF strategy I've been doing for 3.5 years, a certain Vanguard ETF, a certain Dividend ETF I've been doing for 3.5 years. And to compare that to what if I invested into the other most popular Dividend ETF, SCHD, from that same time period, we'll call it July of 2020, all the way through the end of 2023. And if I would have changed my mind knowing what those results are today. So guys, grab your favorite beverage, whether that's coffee, water, tea, liquor, the wine, because you're Italian, baby. I got to drop that. I'm actually not even drinking coffee. I've been 15 plus days strong, no caffeine, no coffee for this guy. Let me know what you guys think about that. Can you guys go that long without coffee? Let me know in those comments, guys. But grab that beverage and let's dive in to see which ETF I would have still done. All right, guys. So if you don't know by now, 3.5 years ago, back, let's call it July of 2020, my wife and I, we started buying VYM every single week, Vanguard's high dividend yield ETF, 6 basis points on the expense ratio, over 400 holdings in this Vanguard ETF, the little engine that could for, pretty much passive income investors. You get an above average yield at over 3% with a decent dividend growth rate between 6 and 8%. But then the big Charles Schwab dividend ETF, SCHD, started blazing their paths pretty much during the pandemic. You didn't really hear much about SCHD before that, to be honest. But then from social media such as YouTube, Twitter, or X, hashtag SCHD, $SCHD really started to trend and has been trending for, we'll call it over 3 years now. And again, by the way, guys, another unscripted video, just talking to you guys straight. I've got a little bit of analysis I did here just from a numbers standpoint, but we're just going to talk about the ETFs, about my strategy that I've done for 3.5 years. And if I were to go back, knowing what the results are now, would I have actually instead have done SCHD, which has a very similar expense ratio, about 100 holdings, so about 25% holdings, of what Vanguard's VYM has. And SCHD, your concentration in the top 10 are a heck of a lot more than what Vanguard's VYM is. And, I'll always say past performance will never be predictive for future results. So, keep that in mind, and maybe that'll be the conclusion here after we look at these, two ETFs from July 2020 on. So how am I exactly going to compare it? Well, it's actually pretty easy. Here, let me grab a little sip of this warm. I'm actually drinking hot chocolate today, guys. Cocoa powder and hot water. Why not? So how we're going to measure this, we're going to do a little scoring system between VYM and SCHD. And we're going to look at two performance charts, we'll call it. One, we'll actually look at just the stock price, the ETF price performance. And we'll use a barometer of just July 1st, 2020. And we're going to look at it through 2020, end of the year, 12/31. Then we'll look at how did each ETF do in 2021, how did each ETF do in 2022, 2023. And then, so right there, you've got to think about, you can get 4 points, right? So if one outdoes the other in one of those time periods, so from July to the end of December in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, you can get a point each for those time periods. And then we're going to look into VYM and SCHD's dividend growth history. So similarly, what were the trailing 12 months? So for example, when we look at July, we're going to look at the first 2 quarters of dividends in 2020, Q1 and Q2, and then the last 2 quarters in 2019. So that'll be the trailing 12 months. And then for 2020, call it 2021, 2022, 2023, there'll be 4 calendar quarter dividends. So that'll be the trailing 12 months there. And then we're going to look at the growth rates in between each period. So again, 4 more points that you could get here, depending on who wins that period. And then at the end, we'll add up all the points and see which ETF won and see my take, this guy's take, if I would have changed my strategy. All right, guys, so way back in the day, VYM on July, we'll start with VYM first. They were actually trading at $78.49 on July 1st. That was their close price on 7/1. Fast forward to the end of 2020, they actually leaped up to $91.51. So they actually jumped, guys, 16.59% in 6 months during that pandemic year. Not too bad. But how did Vanguard do in 2021? So from December, we'll call it 2021 performance. They went from 91.51 to 112.11. So they had a performance year of about 22.51% return in 2021. Now we know 2022 was just a dog year for the stock market in general, right? S&P 500 was down. The Vanguard's high dividend yield was also down, but actually wasn't down by that much. The 2022 performance, again, they started at $112.11. VYM actually finished 2022 at $108.21. So they were only down 3.48%. That's part of the reason why I like VYM, just an FYI. You may not get the shoot upwards, but it definitely limits your downside risk in down years. Then in 2023, they did not perform like the S&P 500 at 24%, but VYM performed positively at 3.16%. Now let's go to SCHD, guys. And I'm going to show this chart here, so don't you worry. SCHD was $51.26 back in July of 2020, $51, so $25 ago, guys. And they finished 2020 at $63.77, so a 24.4% return. That's a point for SCHD because VYM only finished the last 6 months at 16.59%. SCHD then in 2021, again, starting at $63.77, actually finished at $80, guys. They hit over $80. It was $80.83 in 2021, up 26.75%. Another point for SCHD because VYM only performed positively 22.5%, so trailed them by about 4%. 2022 happened. Like I said, everything was down in 2022. SCHD actually finished at $75.54 in 2022. They were down 6.54%. So not down quite as much as the S&P 500, but down more than VYM. VYM was down about 3.5%, so a point to VYM. Go to 2023, SCHD finished at $76.13. So they finished up 0.78%. So a point to VYM because they were up 3.16%. Now, 2 points each, right? Now we'll look at the whole performance time period from July all the way through December of 2023. VYM was up 42% and SCHD was up closer to 48.5%. So SCHD outperformed VYM by about 6% over that time, or by about 6% over that time period. So let's get to the dividend. Let's hit them quick. Thanks for hanging with me. Grab a sip real quick. All right, let's get to the dividend here. VYM had about a $2.90, call it 96 cents, trailing in July. SCHD was about $1.84, so we'll do like both of them here at the same time. VYM finished the year at $2.91. So their trailings changed up downward, VYM, surprisingly, by about 1.7%. But SCHD finished at $2.03 trailing 12 months or trailing 4 quarters. So they finished up 10.5% on the dividend growth. Point for SCHD. Now let's get into 2021's trailing 12-month dividends. $3.09 for VYM, up 6.5%. Now that's what I'm talking about. But whoa, SCHD came in heavy and hard in 2021. And SCHD's trailing 4 quarters that year was $2.25, up almost 11% in the dividend growth, outpacing the 6.5% from VYM. Point for SCHD. Okay, 2022, right? This has to be a year VYM might win. VYM finished their trailing 12 months at $3.25, up about 5%. How did SCHD do in 2022? SCHD still came in, put a nice little knocker on them. They finished at $2.56, up 13, almost 14%. Point for SCHD. So if you're keeping track right now, they won 2 points in that first round. They've already got 3 points here. They're up 5 points to 2 right now in VYM. So how did 2023 finish up? Well, Vanguard's high dividend yield ETF finished at $3.47/48, up 7% on the dividend. SCHD finished at $2.66, up about 3.77%, one of their lower dividend growth years. So that's a point for VYM. However, over that stretch, SCHD's dividend has grown about 45% in that 3.5-year period, whereas VYM's grown about 18%. So overall, SCHD's dividend has grown much faster than VYM's, albeit the last one was SCHD's lowest growth. So here we are. SCHD technically won by points, 5-3. They took 2 points in the first round, 3 points in the second round. Vanguard had 2 in the first and only 1 in the second. And overall, by growth and dividend growth, SCHD took the trophy. So that's 3.5 years of a look back. And yeah, I mean, I would have been better off, right? More than likely, from a performance standpoint and from a dividend growth standpoint. But now we're in this year of 2024. Now we're starting to see Vanguard kind of doing better than SCHD right now. They've beat SCHD on performance for the last 2 years, and they've split decision the last 2 years from dividend growth. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger here. I'm going to have to see at least 6 more months worth of VYM, because that'll actually bring 4 full years. So I think I'd like to do this video again in July, maybe July 1st. We talk about VYM SCHD 4 year later, battle round number 2, to see how the points fall. What do you guys think? You guys want me to do that? Would you guys have changed your decision and gone all SCHD and said heck with VYM? Which one do you like, VYM or SCHD? Let me know in those comments, guys. And again, it's all about saving and investing. I love VYM, and I think SCHD is great as well. So as of right now, I'm not stopping my VYM ETF strategy. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Like this video, definitely subscribe. Support Lanny here at Freedom Finance, guys. Keep saving, keep investing. Let's get to financial freedom. I'll catch you on the next one.